Hi everybody, welcome to the ShopNotes podcast. I'm Phil Huber. Today I'm joined, as always, by Don Joyle and Logan Whitmer. Don't call him Dylan. Today's episode we're going to be talking about workshop close calls and, as always, what we have going on our workbenches. This episode of the ShopNotes podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Plans. You'll find nearly 1,000 plans covering everything that you'd want to build, from furniture projects to gift projects, kitchen accessories, workshop projects and jigs, and more. Find your next project at woodsmithplans.com.
I'm going, everybody's looking at me. I'm going first, I guess.
Yeah, you are.
I have a mess of tools and rust and evaporust and simple green, sandpaper, and a sign my wife's painting on my bench at home.
Okay.
So I'm cleaning up some saws, I'm cleaning up some hand planes, I am de-rusting, I am I guess not depolishing, I'm polishing.
Depolishing.
I'm depolishing, yeah.
Wait, how does that work?
I don't know.
Sandpaper?
Yeah,
Rough?
I just
No.
rub it
You
in
start
the
at like
dirt.
400 grit and
Yeah.
then go work your way down to
Yeah.
60 or 80 grit.
Exactly.
I like it.
But yeah, I've it's actually kind of been enjoyable. So my wife's been joining me in the shop in the evenings, which is a little weird, you know.
Yeah.
So both of our kids they're young. They're what, 5 and 2. They go to bed at like 8 o'clock. So once they're asleep, we grab the monitor just so we can. Our youngest likes to wake up and wander around the house, so we grab the monitor, know when he wakes up, and we go down to the shop, flip the TV on in the shop, and I stand there, work on tools, and she's been crafting.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, she's been working on some painted signs and stuff. Just kind of the kind of, I don't want to say Pinteresty type signs, but welcome to the Whitmer family farm with a chicken on it and whatever, stuff like that.
I didn't know you had chickens.
I don't have chickens.
Oh,
It's kind of
Okay.
funny, not yet, but maybe I'm getting chickens. I don't know.
They'll go out there with the hogs.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's actually been really enjoyable. It's kind of relaxing to hang out in the shop and not really talk, just watch TV and work on our own things, and yeah, it's been fun. And then I don't get the kind of the guilt trip that I usually get. So
Disappear down the shop by yourself.
Exactly.
And, like, I don't see you. And,
Exactly. So it's been kind of nice.
I like that.
So,
It's kind of nice to cross that threshold of parenting where
Exactly.
you don't really have to have that as the same level of hands-on work with the kids, and then once they're in bed, you can. It's like, holy crap! I have like 3 more hours during the evening.
It's funny because my wife took my oldest one somewhere a couple of weeks ago, and actually it's been a couple nights ago, and I was like, okay, I got a couple hours. They're gone basically until bedtime for the most part. So I took my youngest Henry downstairs with me into the shop, and he's at the age where he enjoys coloring, and he also enjoys. He has little like baby Einstein type games on the tablet. So I brought his coloring books down, and he colored for a while, and then he said tablet, and I said okay, I'll get a game going for him so he can sit there, and we have a little child-sized recliner. That my in-laws bought for Christmas a couple years ago, and I have that sitting in my shop. It's sitting next to my table saw, which is unplugged, but it's sitting there, and he's sitting in the recliner with the tablet, and then all of a sudden I hear splashing, and I'm like, what did he get into? Now I should mention at this point, my child doesn't have pants on. He's getting potty trained.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, he's getting potty trained. So he just can't let him run around without pants on, so he can go in and go to the potty when he needs to. And it works great until he decides to pee in my shop. So I ended up with shop pee all over.
That's what the sawdust is for.
I guess.
Yeah, you just kind of have a little bucket of it and throw it on there to soak it up.
Thankfully I'm cleaning everything with Simple Green anyway, so might as well just clean the floors.
And then you just spray the kid down a little bit. And wipe him with
I just
Simple
put
Green.
him in the shower. Yeah.
Sawdust bath.
Yeah, sawdust bath. He was really itchy all night.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. That's what's on my bench and on my floor. So
Good to know.
yeah, don't eat anything off the floor of my shop.
I will not.
Okay.
So on my bench, last time I was talking about, finishing up some projects I'd started long ago. So I have the doors and the top built for the linen cabinet that I was working on, and now I'm just working on some drawers, so the fun part. So I decided not to go dovetail. They're pretty big drawers. There's a lot of them.
Too.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Congratulations. So just doing some like tongue and groove plywood drawers, getting it done type thing. So doesn't have to be pretty, just has to be done.
Yeah, I did a vanity for our bathroom downstairs when we added that, and you always think like, I'm a woodworker, so I should do all the fancy woodworker things. And I'm like, I want this done. I'm just going to do rabbits and pin them.
There gets a point where there's a time and place for fancy joinery, but there gets a point in every project where it's like, I just want to get this done, tongue and groove, or rabbits and pin it, and it's done. It works great. Doesn't look as good as a dovetail would, but it works perfect, and that's the main thing.
Yeah. And I can see that more like if it was a piece of furniture that we'd move someday and hand down, or this is like it's attached to the wall, we'll move, and the next person can worry about that, and so.
Well, it's like when we built our house and we did all of our built-ins, it's all MDF. I mean, the tops, the painted tops and stuff, and shelves are all like Baltic birch, but the doors are all like routed MDF. And the woodworker in me kind of was like, sneering at that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna move in a few years probably. I'm like, why? I don't care.
Right.
It's painted. I don't care. The MDF's great because it expands, but it doesn't really expand and contract like solid wood does. So I don't have a weird paint line, because of course they're built on site then painted, not pre-finished. So yeah, I get it. It's especially if your wife's looking at moving.
Right. Yeah. It's like get these things done and move on. So yeah. So what do you got, Phil?
So I'm still working on that bookcase project, and I'm trying to come to terms with working in a small shop with big pieces of plywood in the winter. Because plywood is fun in summer when you can be outside or the garage door can be open, and because my shop's in the garage, it's just a lot easier to move big pieces around when you don't have to try and do it in the confined space of the shop. And then also, because my shop is small and I have a relatively small table saw, I really can't process big sheets there. So I'm trying to cut them down with a circular saw and some cutting guides. And I'm trying to step up my game on how accurate I can be with that method, because I just don't like I'm going to cut them to rough size here and then go over here and then do the exact same thing except making, prettier or whatever. So I'd like to make final parts with the circular saw.
Yeah. With what you were saying the other day, you'd cut down some pieces to rough size, so you get them in your car and bring them home, and then realize, or brought them here, and you realized that you cut them to 36, and you got here and like they're supposed to be 40. So
Oh no.
Yeah. So it doesn't work out sometimes when you're cutting stuff to rough size, and then.
And I would like to argue with you, wrestling plywood's not fun anytime.
No, it's not, but it's just more convenient when I
more,
can turn the sheet around out in the driveway rather than
That is true, yeah. Well, and it is nice to be able to open the garage door after you're done cutting, because circular saws or track saws in general don't have the best dust collection.
Yeah.
So they make a mess.
Yeah.
So it's nice if you're breaking down plywood to just open the garage door with a leaf blower and get it all outside, and then it just disappears in your neighbor's yard, which is great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the other thing is now, you get, at some point I'm going to get to the place where I'm going to be starting to assemble things.
Yeah.
And this case is going to be like almost 60 inches long, by the time it's done about 30 inches high.
Yeah.
Almost a foot and change deep. So that's got to go somewhere while I'm still working on it. And it's, kind of doing the space juggle of, stepping around things. And
do you have a heater in your garage?
Well, I have one of those, I got it for Christmas last year. No, it was one of those quartz heaters that you can hang on the wall where it's just like if I'm standing under it, it's pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And I had put that like dimpled plastic stuff down on the floor and then put tongue and groove OSB on the top of it so that I'm not standing on a cold floor. It makes a huge difference in winter.
Yeah.
But, once I'm out of that like cone of warmth, it's pretty cold.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize like how cold tool surfaces get.
Oh yeah.
Or using your table saw in winter, like how much cold air that blade is blowing up at you.
Yeah, which is true. So what do you do with your glue ups in the winter?
One of two things. Either I put them in the back of my car and then do them here.
Sure.
And then, so, I can come in a little early, glue it up, and then by the time work day's over, I can pull the clamps off and take it back home if I need to. Or just off of our laundry room in the basement of our house is, I don't know what I call a work room, where I keep all the, your plumbing tools and paint. And so I have a work room for kind of like the home repair stuff to kind of keep that separate from my woodworking. So that's usually warm enough that I can do glue ups down there.
Gotcha.
So, but it is kind of an awkward look when it's like 11 o'clock at night and I'm like sneaking from the garage into the house and I have like 14 clamps in one arm and, a bunch of parts and.
Yeah. It's interesting so that I'm actually in the process of, at home, cleaning my shop a little bit. I mean, I'm making a huge mess right now, but I'm cleaning my shop a little bit in the sense that I'm trying to separate my tools, right? Because I have all my woodworking tools in my shop in my basement.
Right.
But then I also seem to have accumulated, I know I have them, but I've seen in my shop to have accumulated all my like ratchets and wrenches. And why are they in my shop?
Yeah.
So it's like I keep, like every time I go to my shop, I try to fill up a box of which is embarrassing that every time I go to my shop, I fill up a box and I do bring it upstairs, but I'm trying to separate out my like mechanics and home tools into the garage where, I do have a workbench out there for like, mechanical stuff, whether I'm working on a car or a chainsaw or whatever I'm doing. Yeah. And my actual woodworking stuff in the basement. So is that something that you kind of keep separate? I know your shop's in your garage.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the benefits of our house now where it is, because I can have my woodworking shop out in the garage. And I kind of have that set apart. It's going to sound kind of dumb probably, but that it's kind of like my sanctuary or place where I like to be. Yeah. It's my man cave or office or place where I can really enjoy stuff. And then have that room off the laundry room where all the other like, the broken toys and the paint and the home upkeep tools all go. Yep. So that stuff. And then I repurposed a little old shop cabinet from here and turned it into a cart that I have in the garage, and I try and keep all of my car stuff there. Yeah. So then it's separate, so I don't, because sometimes, I'm kind of stealing time when I'm out in my shop anyway, and I don't. Last thing that I really need is to have more reminders of stuff that I probably should be working on.
Yeah, I get that. John, your shop's in the garage, right?
Yeah, it's kind of all in
one.
Pushed back in the corner. Usually, and so it's all kind of all together.
So that's funny because that's how my first shop was when I first bought a house. Everything was in the garage. I still had my like roll around tool cabinet that has all like my I call them mechanics tools, but they're not really mechanics tools. A wrench is a wrench, right? Yeah. But I had all that off to the side, and I still, even then, separated it. It's like, those don't get mixed with the woodworking tools. Now, somewhere down the line, obviously all my mechanics tools ended up in my garage, because I'm out there trying to replace a hydraulic line on my tractor, and I don't know where a wrench is, so I walked down into the basement, covered in hydraulic fluid, to get a wrench or get a socket, because it's down there for some reason. But
I keep a few of those kind of tools in one of my woodworking tool, because you're doing stuff on a, monkeying with something on your drill press or your table saw or something like that. So you need to have a few of those tools, but
which is kind of what I'm doing. I'm separating out my kind of ones I use in my shop, which, like you said, usually it's a set of Allen wrenches and a couple wrenches, like open end wrenches or crescent wrenches, and maybe a small set of sockets, because you never know when you have to put a leg screw into something or whatever. And it is nice to have all that stuff available in the house, because my garage is unheated, so it's like it's not that big of an inconvenience to run out into the garage, but it's a whole lot easier to run downstairs in my slippers, you know what I mean, and grab a wrench if I need something. So it was just, when you said that, something that popped in my head that I've been working on lately. I was wondering how if you guys split your tools up like that. Yeah. So
Now, speaking of workshops, last fall we had our live event here in Urbandale, and James Hamilton was one of our presenters, Stumpy Nubs, and he did a presentation on shop safety, which we got a little bit of heat for as being something kind of dumb to do at a live event.
Yeah.
But he did a great job
Yeah.
on making it real.
Yeah.
In an ironic twist of fate, later
Yes.
that fall, he ended up suffering a workshop accident.
Yeah.
So we've kind of been seeing him following along,
Yeah,
being
kinda
as a
seeing
friend
him,
of the
yep.
show, friend
Yep.
of the magazine
Yep.
on his recovery.
Yeah.
It made me think now again of workshop close calls or injuries.
Sure. Well, so first of all, let's explain quick what happened to Jim, right?
Yeah,
He was doing some power carving.
right.
Okay, he was working. I think he said it was a bench, like a oak leaf shaped bench or something along those lines. And he was using a carving disc on a angle grinder.
Right.
Okay?
Not unusual.
Not unusual. I mean, that's how a lot of power carvers do it. And he was using one that had it was a blade that had chainsaw teeth around
Right.
the outside.
And they've been around for a while.
They've been around for quite a while. And he was doing some heavy removal of stock, and somehow, and he has a video out, and you guys can go to the Stumpy Nubs YouTube channel and watch his video, and you can see the accident happen. It's not gory or anything by any means, and it happened so quick that he just happened to tap the work surface as he was moving it, and it kicked back at him, bounced off his one hand, and bounced off his leather apron. Now, fortunately, he did not have the power locked on, so as soon as it kicked out of his hands, it was powering down.
Right, it was spooling down.
Yeah, the blade was still spinning, obviously.
Yeah.
He had leather gloves on, which helped. That helped stop some of the teeth, and he had an apron on, so he had all the correct PPE gear on. But in the process, it did catch him across the back of I believe it was his left hand.
Yeah.
And chewed up some tendons pretty good. He had to go back in for some surgery and stuff. So that was it was an eye opener to at least watch it happen and see how fast. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievable how fast it happened. And looking at it, you're like, oh, it didn't really do that much,
But
but
did.
it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about that, and it was interesting to see if we've had any close calls. So
I've had a couple. I had my first table saw was one of those little Delta $99
yeah,
benchtop saws.
Sure.
And I had it set up outside in my driveway of our first house and was doing something and had it kick back on me, and I still have a scar on my arm. And I honestly don't even know what moved or shifted
happened,
on
yeah.
it that it caused it, because it just happened so fast. And then there was one time I was here in the shop. I was cutting some plexiglass, and I wanted to get a clean cut, so I did the whole put down some hardboard and then the plexiglass,
Sure.
and then I think another piece of hardboard to make like a sandwich, just to hold it
sounds
in
good.
place. Yeah, the hardboard plexiglass sandwich.
Yeah.
No mayo though.
Yeah, oh, yuck, yeah.
reminds me of an ice cream sandwich.
So, and I was making the cut, and as I was making the cut, I saw the plexiglass start to shift and move.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm halfway
Yeah,
through this
there's no
cut.
backing out now.
Time
Yeah.
is kind of slowing down already. And already through the process, I'm like, I just can't get over to turn it off.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm just going to bail out and let go, because that's going to be worse. So it's like you just kind of got to lean as much as you can to the side. And that plexiglass spun out like a frisbee and caught me in the arm, and I had a big bruise on my shoulder for a while, and it went winging across the shop, and so it's just one of those things where it's, you end up doing things so many times, so you think that it's a safe process, but I could have used a couple layers of double-sided tape or quick put down a toggle clamp or something like that. And
Yeah. John? I know when you're on the
yeah,
table
everything's
saw,
a-
you like
everything-
to close your eyes when you're making a cut. That's your
Yeah, everything's a
protection.
close call. No, I'm trying to think of some of the injuries that I've had here at work. Nothing major, but one thing that sent me to the doctor one time is I was in a hurry and had to knock off the edge of a piece of Baltic birch plywood. I grabbed a piece of sandpaper and I'm quickly sanding it, and the edge of the sandpaper caught a sliver,
I know where it's going.
brought it up and sent a toothpick-sized sliver through the tip of my finger and out the other side. So I had a toothpick basically going through my finger, and I stopped to show everybody and take a picture, and then I
do you
just
pull it out,
yeah,
or do you pull it through?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, like gonna grab it with a vice grips and pull it out, and then I just kind of chickened out and went to the doctor, and they did it for me, and just a quick yank, and it was fine.
Said,
updated my tetanus shot.
They
sent me
you
on my
really
way.
came in for this?
Yeah, and they put a little Care Bear Band-Aid on it. So it wasn't like anything super serious, but now I do use a sanding block every time I'm sanding.
Baltic birch can be kind of splintery like that. I love working with it, but I've gotten my fair share of smaller splinters.
Right, so wasn't anything serious, but it was an eye-opener for something as simple as just, grabbing a piece of sandpaper and trying to sand the edge of, plywood. You got to be careful. Another thing that happened here, I had, I think, stuck 2 pieces of MDF together. I was using one as a template to route, flush trim route the other one. And that wasn't dangerous at all. It came to when I had to separate the 2 pieces. They were stuck together with double-sided tape, and I just grabbed the sharpest chisel I could find and had it on edge on the bench, and I stuck that chisel in between. And as I'm like going to pry these 2 pieces apart, I'm thinking, this is a bad idea. And a half second later, it slipped, and I saw a tear in my shirt, and I was just like afraid to look. So I think I walked into the bathroom and lifted my shirt up and looked, and there was like just a little tiny, like
little nick on your stomach,
or whatever. So I did go in and get that stitched up. But now I can tell everybody I have chiseled abs. So worth it. Totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
There's no denying that. So.
And there's the title for this show: is
Chiseled Abs.
Chiseled abs. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I guess the commonality between all of my close calls and injuries is that I was in a hurry and knew I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and something bad happened. So it's like slow down, think about it. If you think it's unsafe, it probably is. So
I've been lucky or good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sure.
No, I've been lucky enough that I haven't had I've never had a table saw kick back on me. I've never had any issues with the router. The worst I've done is, hand tool injuries is the biggest thing. Probably the worst one I've got, I had a scar on one of my palms. I was doing a hand-cut dovetail seminar out here in Des Moines, and a couple of weeks beforehand, I was, just making sure, getting back into hand-cut dovetail shape.
Right.
And I was using we have a Chris above his bench has a rabbit plane. It's the Veritas rabbit plane. And a rabbit plane, to work well, has to have the blade protruding just a hair from the side of the bed. On the Veritas plane, that happens to be it's a skewed blade, so that happens to be the tip.
Yeah, it's like a spear.
It's like a laser spear. And I caught that with my palm, and it sliced my hand so fast, it didn't even hurt. All of a sudden, I'm just like, where'd this blood come from? And that's probably, that and chisel injuries is probably the worst I've had. I did have one of my best friends growing up, when we were in high school, we had a class that I believe was like Intro to Manufacturing. Okay. So as the class, we'd go around the community and sold a project, and it happened to be stools, kind of like this, that we were selling to the community, and we would make them. So however many sold, we made. And one of the processes there was to take the legs and use a biscuit joiner to join the stretchers. Okay. Because we're trying to make these in a production type environment. Yeah. And Allison, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm telling everybody about this, but
I don't even like where this is going.
She was holding, I don't even know how she was doing it, but she was holding a piece, like a stile or a rail for this chair, and biscuit joining the end of it. Yeah. And it caught a knot in the white oak and kicked that out, and she biscuit jointed her wrist.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, right. I think, and I'm sure if Allison watches this, she'll tell me if I'm wrong. It got her lengthwise. So all of a sudden, somebody's like, "Hey, Allison cut her wrist really bad, and I walk out, and Mr. Allman's holding her wrist in a paper towel and said, yeah, it's pretty bad. And he's like, ambulance is on the way. So
Grab a number 20 biscuit and just put it in there to stop the bleeding, or what?
no,
Because they swell up.
It was some stitches, and I think she had some physical therapy and stuff.
I'm sure.
But maybe that's why I haven't had an injury like that, because I didn't see it happen, but I saw the aftermath. And it was not pretty.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I've been very lucky as far as, not having any. I say lucky, however, if we're doing stuff proper in our shop, we should never have an accident, right? I mean, stuff. Well,
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
It's like,
yeah.
Going back to Jim Hamilton, it's like he's probably one of the most safety conscious woodworkers that I know.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but then it's like, somebody like me that's like in there going Maverick all the time, and I've been pretty lucky not to have any serious injuries. So, it happens. It's just
I guess what I was getting at is more of, from our standard woodworking equipment, table saw, drill press, router table, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If we go slow, take our time, you can do operations safely.
Right. Yeah. And plan what you're going to do too, because I think sometimes you just get going on something and you're not really thinking through something.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you have something happen where a part gets chip out or something, so you need to quick either repair it or make a new one. So you want to get through that process to get back up to speed. So then you've not set up a tool properly or got everything together. You're just kind of doing it on the fly.
Yeah. Kind of think about the full process is like if you're making a cut, how you're going to start that, how you're going to cut it, and then how you're going to finish it. Because there's been times like on the table saw or router table, I'm doing something long and it's like I don't have the outfeed table on there, and I get to the end and it just keeps going, and I'm trying to hold the piece down to the table and just tipping. So it's like you got to kind of work through the whole process before you even turn on a tool. And
so that leads me to, I guess this leads into another question. In your opinion, is a item with a hefty price tag like a saw stop, is that worth it in your shop? Is not for you personally, but
for someone.
Do you think that price tag's justified for something like that?
I think if you can afford it, it's definitely nice to. It's cheaper than replacing a finger or a hand or
all the medical bills.
All the medical bills and that kind of thing. We have them in the shop here, but for as long as I've been woodworking, I haven't normally had a saw stop and haven't had a problem. But it only takes one time. You're not going to grow that finger back, so it's nice if you can afford it, because they're not. If you're going to spend a lot of money on a table saw, it's not any more expensive than another expensive table saw.
No, they're right in line with another high end.
So it's not like a must have, but I would, if you can afford it, I'd recommend.
Yeah.
So
I would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because like everything in life has risks. Otherwise, we'd just kind of lay on the floor staring up at the ceiling just to avoid all kinds of injury or no. But that being said, I think there's a lot to your point earlier, John, where you set up the tool correctly. And on the table saw, that includes having some kind of a splitter on the back and good workpiece support and things like that. One of those things where it's like, yes, it's super safe to do it that way, but I really want people to be making stuff, and I don't want a $3,500 barrier standing in the way of somebody being able to do something.
It's just like cars. You can get a really expensive car and has all the self-driving and self-stopping and self-parking and all that, but it's like if you're driving safely, you can drive a cheaper car and be fine. So
I was asking because, like I said, my shop's in my basement, and my kids have started going in the shop with me. So it's one of those things. It's kind of in the back of my mind, like they know shop safety. My oldest does because he's worked in my shop with me a little bit. But kids will be kids, and it might amaze you guys, but my son, being my son, is very stubborn. And I know. And he thinks he can do stuff himself. So even though he knows that, the saw is something we only use with Dad, and, Dad does it until I'm a little bit older, it kind of makes me a little nervous that
you don't have a saw stop.
That I don't have one just in case. Which is, it's funny because if saw stop would have never came around,
You wouldn't have thought of it.
I wouldn't have thought of it,
Yeah.
obviously. So, it's just one of those things, like, do I try to make that investment or not? So
Right.
it was just, it's an interesting debate.
Yeah.
So that's a debate I'll have with my wife.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it's also good to have these reminders periodically of, like we can laugh about a lot of these things
Yeah.
after the fact, but in the moment it can be kind of heart pounding and underwear changing kind of moment.
Yeah,
But-
and Jim talks about that in his video that he released about his injury and
Yeah.
about kind of all the emotions he was going through, and he's like, I didn't want to take my glove off because I didn't think I was gonna have fingers, and
Yeah.
the whole, it's probably a 10 or 15-minute video, and it's like, yeah, that would not be fun. Don't we, like you said, we laugh about it, but you don't want that to happen.
And you can't really, come into it timid either, like, just
Right.
like trying to keep your hand away from a table saw blade and push it gingerly through is going to,
Yeah.
be unsafe as well. So you have to
'Cause I've
follow
heard-
all the safety procedures, but, go in there with confidence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Because I've heard that from people. You should always be afraid of your tools or something like
No.
that. It's like, no, you shouldn't be afraid of your tools. You should
respect
your tools and understand what they're trying to do to wood, and then use them with confidence, like you said.
Yeah, being afraid of a tool is, in my opinion, more dangerous.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, okay, well, it's a good reminder for everybody to have safe shop practices and to be thinking about it. I know it's not necessarily a popular topic, but one that we need to be reminded of periodically. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the ShopNotes podcast. If you'd like to share any of your own close calls with us, you can do so on our Facebook page and on our Instagram page. Be careful with the photos. Otherwise, we'd love to hear any other questions, comments, or smart remarks that you have. Otherwise, you'll join us next week right here for the ShopNotes podcast. Bye, everybody.
Stay safe, stay dusty. This episode of the ShopNotes podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Magazine. Woodsmith Magazine has been the trusted source for all your woodworking information for over 40 years. From tips and techniques to furniture projects to shop projects, you can find it all in Woodsmith Magazine. Subscribe today at woodsmith.com.